We're on and in. This is GTV, Educational Perspectives from the Native Speakers Academy. It's the 8th of September 2011, and I've been away for a while. I haven't done any video blogs for the last 2 months almost. That's because for the first part of that time I was helping out my family, and for the second part of the time all my technology was away being repaired because of various different problems with it. Anyway, uh, the new term was about to begin, and what I thought I'd do to introduce the new term is have a little talk with you or anyone who's listening there about how to choose a language school for yourself or your children. This question, I think, is quite important because a lot of people, in my experience, tend to think that education comes automatically and that all schools are the same. And both of those are uh, real misconceptions about the reality of education, I think, because education is something that we need to work at. And just because you're giving money to somebody doesn't mean that they're going to be providing you with the service or the kind of service that you would like to have as a result. So we're going to look at how you can find the language school that really fits for your needs, that really works for you or for someone in your family, because I know that parents have to choose these schools for children. Most language schools are private. Some are state-run, and these language schools tend to be oversubscribed. They tend to be cheaper, but they're cheaper for various different reasons. The premises are usually not very good. The teachers are quite low paid, unfortunately. And there are large classes. So this does fit and work for one group, but it provides a great opportunity in the private sector for other schools to try their systems and their way of working and see if they can do something better, perhaps. So just looking at this town that I'm living in, officially I believe there are 10 to 15 language schools. I can think of 10 just like that, but there's probably more. And these are the official ones. And then, of course, dotted around, you have the unofficial schools sort of working under the radar. And then you have teachers who are teaching privately as well. And I think the teachers need to teach privately because, again, in this part of the world here in Slovakia, teachers are in a lower income bracket. I think on average, according to European pay statistics, teachers in Slovakia get 10 times less on average than a teacher in Britain or the United States, which really means that teaching is a very, unfortunately, unappreciated sector of the economy. If you want to make money, you're definitely not going to go into teaching, and you can make 4 times as much if you jump over the border into Austria and you want to be a care worker and take care of some old person. And you can have twice as much free time as well because you're 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off with that kind of work. Uh, so let's get on with the point. So I've made a list of 10 things which I think are important. There, of course, are many, many, many things that are more important. But if you can answer these 10 points, then you'll probably be able to choose a school which is the best school for yourself or for your children. So point one that I just made a note of, it's don't believe the hype. Um, most marketing and advertising is lies and misinformation. Um, Often it's not direct lies. They twist the truth a little bit so that they can argue that their school is the best school, which of course any school that says we are the best school, don't believe it at all. It's just absolute rubbish. You have to base things on facts, not just on statements. Schools that say, oh, we teach 2, 3, 4 times faster than any other school, that's absolute rubbish as well. Despite all the different methods that exist, the communication method, the Callan method, the Berlitz method, that's all rubbish. Schools that say we have the best teachers, we have the most qualified teachers, just because someone is qualified doesn't actually mean they're going to be good at their job, unfortunately. Native speakers for languages. A lot of people, families, mothers, fathers, search for native speakers to teach their children. They have this concept that a native speaker is better. Is a native speaker better? No, not always, because someone who has a pedagogical background perhaps has more diversity within their style of teaching and more understanding of the nature of teaching and development of teaching and working with other teachers, which you have to do in bigger schools. And so these ideas really can help to provide a better environment for learning. Qualified native speakers, for sure, good move. If someone is unqualified, it doesn't mean they're a bad teacher at all if they don't have a qualification. In fact, I believe that anyone can teach almost anything to anyone at all if they really want to teach it and the student wants to learn. You don't need a qualification to teach someone anything at all. You don't need a qualification to share information with people, which is essentially just what teaching is. Government accredited and accepted schools. In my experience, governments basically have an agenda and no real idea about what they're doing with education. So that means absolutely nothing at all. Other organization accredited, whether you're International House accredited, I think they do accreditation, I'm not quite sure. Cambridge University have some accreditations for schools, and maybe people like Oxford Publishing have as well, but that usually just means that the schools have agreed to use only their material. It doesn't mean there's a higher quality and standard of education, and there are thousands of courses available now, and a lot of the material is great. You really have to spend some time with it and find what's right for you. And price. In my experience, cheap courses are cheap for a reason. Are cheap because they're rubbish. So you should expect to pay a certain standard for a higher quality of education. You're not going to be able to buy a BMW or an Audi or a Mercedes for the same price that you can a Skoda, essentially. Well, not in this part of the world anyway. So we got through the first point there. I'm going to have to rush through this as always. Point 2 is that the teacher is more important than the school. Who is the teacher? What experience do they have? Have you met them? Do you know them? Do you trust them to provide the right kind of education? Really, you can find great teachers in bad schools, and you can find bad teachers in good schools. But the teacher is the key, because the teacher is the person who's directing the information and trying to improve the knowledge of the students. So even more important than the course book, more important than the school, more important than the administration is the actual teacher. Have you met the teacher before the course starts? Do you even know who the teacher is going to be before the course starts? I mean, that is key. I mean, I've met so many people who have paid for a course and they're not sure exactly who the teacher is going to be. I mean, again, to use the car analogy, would you pay money for a car if you didn't know what kind of car you were going to get? I wouldn't, anyway. Moving on, part 3, point 3. How many lessons will the student have? I wrote this down because very often, and this sounds like a contradiction, but it's really not, very often less is more. that if you are meeting the teacher, say once a week for 60 minutes, 90 minutes, that can often be better than twice. More does not always mean that it's better. So more does mean maybe you can have a little bit more personal contact, but that also means more work that you need to do outside of the class as well, and you need to prepare and organize your time. You have to think about traveling to and from lessons if you're doing it physically, if you're not doing it through Skype or learning online or some way like that. So having just one focus point during your week for that meeting and then do some homework can often be better than twice. It's not that twice is bad. Each course is different. Each individual has to find what's right for them. I also find that the very intensive courses, something like Learning Every Day, are often too intense. There's way too much information there for the student, unless, of course, it's a specialized summer course, for example, or maybe just a weekend course to refresh information, and that's okay. Next point, homework is key. Very little is actually learnt within the school, because learning is taking information, storing it, processing it, and then using it. And when you receive the information, that's only one part of the picture. That's only one part of the whole process of your education and learning. So you need to make sure that there's quite an amount of homework there, because you need to challenge yourself in your own time with the information. That's where the learning actually takes place. You need reading, you need the input, you need listening, you need that input, and you need writing, the creative element as well going in there. If you don't have those things, you won't learn. Conversation courses tend not to work because they're using only output and there's very little input. However, I will say that I do know some teachers who teach excellent conversation courses because they're able to input a lot of information as well, because they know it's not just conversation. Conversation is only using what you know, essentially. So if you want real learning to take place, you've got to go for a course that's involving or that has prepared homework and reading, listening, and writing. Even if the students don't want to do it, you have to get them to do it. How big is the class? How many people are in the class? How much communication is going to take place within the class? Is the teacher asking individual students, how the students communicating between themselves? All these things affect the dynamics within the classroom. They also affect the opportunities that a student has to communicate. Consider a meeting for 90 minutes with 9 students in the class. Students, if they're working and a teacher-oriented classroom, only have about, in a perfect world, 9 minutes each for, no, 10 minutes each, sorry, for communication. And that's in a perfect world. I mean, you can easily cut that in half. You can easily cut that by 75% and say that if there's 9 students in the class, they might only get 2 or 3 minutes per 90 minutes. So you really want small groups. Big groups are great for schools because they bring in more money. The schools are more profitable, and it is a business, so they do need to make money, but it's negative for the students. You don't want to be in a group with more than 5 people, in my opinion. Although, again, it depends on the teacher. I mentioned that before. Moving on, I think that we're probably only going to get halfway through these points today in this short little presentation and talk. I really would like people to think carefully about what kind of education they're looking for, because, as I said at the beginning, it really isn't automatic. You have to prepare very carefully for it, and you need to put energy and time into it, because it is hard work learning, but it can also be fun at the same time as well. So consider those first 5 points, and hopefully I'll get to make a second part to this, and I'll get to finish these off. So thank you very much. Take care.